Welcome to my channel. Today we are going to make a masterboard using a winning color combination, and then we're going to make multiple makes using the same background. So this is a masterboard that I created previous using turquoise, bright aqua, peach, and yellow, and cards that I made, and I'll put a link to that video if you want to visit that and use that color scheme. So today my plan is to use magenta, purples, and yellow. And here's a sneak peek of the beautiful masterboard that we are going to create. So I pulled papers, purples, magentas, and some yellows from my stash, and of course I have more than I need. And then I'm just ripping them and applying them to the substrate. And in that case, I'm using an 11 by 17 copy paper. I want it light and airy, and I'm just kind of ripping it and randomly placing them on here. Now, the advantage of a masterboard is you do all the gluing and layering and stenciling once, and then you have enough background for multiple projects. The other advantage is when you're creating the masterboard, you're not focused on the end product. So it frees up your creativity. So here I'm using gel medium from the Crafter's Workshop to glue down the various collage papers. Some of these are gel prints, some of them are collage papers. There's coffee filters, deli paper, tissue paper, copy paper, and even thicker paper. And all these layers are going to add texture to the finished project as well as start our color story. It's a quick, easy way to get those colors down. I'm not worried about covering every part of it. Some people do. I'm going to add some stamping and stenciling to cover those white spaces, but I also want to leave some of the white space. You want darks, you want lights. So this is the Tim Holtz, I believe it's called Reflections, and I am doing some stamping, and primarily I'm going into the white space. I just want to add one more layer. Masterboards are all about building those interesting layers, and that's when the magic happens, layer upon layer, and then you can see every little bit. This butterfly are also from that same Tim Holtz set, and I will list it, all the stencils and products in the description box below in one of my various affiliate links. There are coupon codes in the TCW site as well as NinnysNapkins. So I've added some black with the couple of the stamps, and now I'm going to use this mini dots stencil from the Crafter's Workshop and black acrylic paint to add some black contrast. Now I'm adding the black now because I don't want this on the top layer. I want hints of it below, and I know that some of it, as I progress, is going to get covered up, and that's my plan. So after drawing every layer, now I am going to basically smoosh on some more color. This is Brilliant Purple, and I've wet it, watered it down somewhat, put it on the acetate, and just smooshing it into various places. Very imprecise, but that's okay. It's all going to add, and remind yourself, this is simply a layer. If you don't like it yet, you're not done. The colors that I am adding now are the same as the colors that are already in there. I'm sticking to those three basic colors, maybe some different tones of it, a darker or a lighter, but basically the same. Now I'm taking quinacridone magenta, brushing it on, and then removing it through the stencil. This adds a very faint pattern as well as the magenta color. And this is where I started really liking my background, adding that deeper magenta and how it worked on top of some of the yellow and the purples there really started to make this masterboard come together. I want some areas darker, more magenta, some areas lighter, and I'm just following and just going. I'm not worried about the end product here. That frees you up creatively. This is the Art Deco stencil, and I absolutely love this one. It never fails to perform and just add so much. This is the 12-inch. There's also a 6-inch. I'm painting or using a makeup sponge and white acrylic paint here. Every once in a while I look back, I take pictures of my masterboard where it's at, and then I decide, what is it missing? What do I need to add? I want this to look fairly light pastel. I was really inspired by spring colors and apple blossoms, the crocuses that are blooming in my yard. This stencil is called Diamond Dash. It's one of the cake and cookie stencils, but don't worry, you can use them in your art. It's just once you've put paint on it, you're not going to want to use it in the kitchen. But if you're not using it in your art, they are food safe. All the stencils are. You just don't want to go from one area to the next. So I'm adding this. I'm using the dioxazine purple, and this is adding a very fine pattern to parts of this masterboard. Not everything that you put in there is going to have the same weight or impact on the masterboard. But you can see where I did the Art Deco leaves with the white. That allowed me to now put some of this pattern on top of the white, and it shows up. As I said, we will be taking this masterboard and making multiple makes with it, showing you different ways that you can use the same background. This stencil is called Bubbled Circles. It's one of the new slimline stencils from the Crafter's Workshop. And I'm using the Brilliant Purple here, which is a very pastel purple, and you're not getting a whole lot of impact. But that's okay. Then I'm going to come back with dioxazine purple here, and it's darker, and you can see the energy that comes when I start putting that dark in there. And you need to add contrast some. So either black or white, or darker hues of the colors that you already have. They're just going to liven up the page and add that interest. This stencil is called Barberry Buds, and I am stenciling with the quinacridone magenta, which is a darker shade of the pink that was glued on some of my papers. And when it goes over the yellow and the purple, it's just magical. It transforms it. The quinacridone magenta is a bit translucent, and so you still see the colors come out, and when you mix those colors or layer those colors on, you get some magic to happen. And then I'm going in with white. So there are so many layers on this masterboard, which is what you want. That's when the magic happens. I am loving this. Hands up if you're loving it too. Do you Instagram? Then you might want to follow me at Creative Kady. If you're a subscriber, thank you. If you're not, you might want to hit that subscribe button. Click on the bell and select the option to be notified of upcoming videos. Now that I'm pretty much done with the layers, I am adding one last layer. I'm adding this word stamp from Stamperia for a little bit of fine detail. And then I grab the elegant script stamp from Darkroom Door, and I am stamping some of that on as well. So I am thrilled with my magenta, purple, and yellow color scheme masterboard. So now I'm ready to cut it up and put it to use. Now you could do this over time. I'm doing it all in one session. So I have decided that I want to do an art journal page with some of this masterboard. This is the 7x10 art journal page, so I'm cutting that out. I usually start with whatever I want the biggest piece, so that will get glued down there. Then I am cutting an insert to go on a 6x6 card, and I'm cutting it 5.5 by 5.5, so I have a white border on my 6x6 card. And I'm using the Tim Holtz cutter here. Then I want to make a cover for a mini composition book. So I'm just rough measuring it right in front of myself. So once everything's cut out, I am going to glue them down onto their various substrates. And I'm using TCW's gel medium for this. The paper's a little thicker. Pressing it down, and I use the brayer to make sure I get good contact, and then I check along the edges to make sure that it's all glued down well. And back with the brayer. So I'm going to do that on all the substrates and then cut off the excess of the art journal page. This is a 4x4 canvas board magnet, and I've cut the paper a little smaller, and I'm going to glue it onto the canvas board. It adheres perfectly well. Here's the 6x6 card. I sometimes find I get better adhesion if I put glue on, or the gel medium on, both surfaces, and then brayer it on to get good contact. And make sure everything's down. So when I'm doing multiple makes like this, and I'm doing it all in one session, you can kind of do an assembly line. Cut everything out, glue everything down, etc., etc. And that's what you're going to see me doing. But don't feel pressured to do all your makes in one sitting like I am. Here I'm just gluing it down onto the composition book. And I have 2 ATCs. So back with the assembly line. Now I'm going to edge or shade all of the substrates. So this is the 4x4 canvas board. And because there's white along the edges, I'm also going to paint the black around the edge of the canvas board. But I could have painted that magenta or purple if I wanted to. But I typically go with black. I find it's just a good all-purpose. Here I'm just adding the edging the ATCs. And I won't be finishing the 2 ATCs or the 4x4 magnet. But you will see me do 3 projects using the same background. So you can see that you have variations. You can totally do it differently if you wanted to. A lot of these composition books and the 4x4 magnets, those are craft fair makes. So every time I do a masterboard, I add 1 or 2 things to my stash for the craft fairs. Now this masterboard is pretty much done. They are good to go. So I am using them pretty much as instant backgrounds, which means I don't have to focus on anything but selecting the focal image and the sentiment and doing some of the finishing steps. So one day you can make the masterboard, the next day you can do the multiple makes. Here I'm shading on the card, edging that part, and I just love the white border. And quite honestly, I would just leave this card just with the masterboard without any focal image. But I am going to add a focal image. But you do have options. So there we have the composition book, 4x4, 2 ATCs, and art journal page. So I went through my magazine pictures. I don't have a lot. And I found this girl, and I selected her because the background is so beautiful and so busy, though. I wanted that black really stood up. And then I decided that I wanted to add some wings. So I used this Darkroom door butterfly stamp, which is black and white. And I cut it apart to give this girl wings. Then I went to my Winged Wonders sentiment pack, and I am bubble cutting this part of the sentiment. That leaves a little bit of white around it, which helps it stand out, especially on a busy background. So once you have your instant background, this is how easy it is. You can spend your time flipping through your focal images, flipping through the ideas, your sentiments, and then just pull it all together. I'm making it a little bit easier this time because I am sticking to the 1 sentiment pack and using some of the same stamps in the different compositions. Now this sentiment said your wings exist, all you have to do is fly. And I play with it a little bit using the whole sentiment, but I'm unsure at this point whether I'm going to use the whole sentiment. So I'm gluing down again with gel medium and getting a good coat on top so when I shade, it's a non-porous surface. And the matte finish of the gel medium takes that shine off the magazine pictures. So out of magazine pictures, I tell my friends if they're getting rid of magazines, I take them, I rip out some of the girls or whatever, and I just keep them in a file for the times that I want to use it. Now I wanted to add a little bit more of this Barberry bud, so I'm just coming in and adding. So you can add to the background if you want to. You can add something that was there and you just want to bring it out, or if it doesn't quite fall exactly where you want it. So don't feel that with your masterboards you have to get them to absolute completeness, because you can always add it. Even if you're using it as an instant border, you can add stamping or stenciling. Now I'm just going to shade around the butterfly wings. And you can see how this brings them out and defines the focal image. And it doesn't soak into the paper because I've put a coat of that matte medium on it. Sometimes I embellish the girl's outfit. I just decided I loved it as it was. Very simple. The background really shines here. Now I wanted the sentiment to be a little bit bolder. So I have black paint, which I've thinned, and I'm using my liner brush and just darkening up the sentiment to make it stand out a little bit more. And as you can see, I edited that sentiment and I only used part of it. These are my digital sentiments packs that are available at Ninny's Napkins. There are videos showing how you can resize them so they can fit any project from a composition book to a canvas. Again, Let Creativity Take Flight comes from my Winged Wonders sentiment pack, and I used the smaller butterfly from using that same Darkroom door butterfly or Spread Your Wings set. Now I chose to do this napkin from Ninny's Napkins, and it is called Colorful Butterflies Yellow. There are two size butterflies. I'm gluing it onto copy paper with fluid matte medium, and once it's dry, cutting it out. The reason I'm gluing it on copy paper is if I glued it onto the background, all those colors from underneath are going to show through the napkin because the napkin goes translucent. This way I preserve the yellow. Another sentiment that I've resized from my Winged Wonders sentiment pack, which is my largest sentiment pack to date, full of dragonfly, butterfly, bird, and angel quotes. Gluing it down, getting a good coat of matte medium so that when I shade it, it's a non-porous surface again. So the last bit of details for all the projects, I'm going to use my Posca pen and outline the sentiments and just darken up some of the stamping that may not be so perfect. I could use my liner brush with the black paint as well for this. I like to put a line around on my composition books, and I do the same to the back. You'll see the back in the close-ups at the end. And then I'm shading that butterfly. I want to make it stand out a little bit more, and just adding that shading with the black acrylic paint in my angle brush is just the thing to do. And that goes into my craft fair make. Outlining the sentiment again. And shading on the butterfly. And here this shading really makes this napkin focal image stand out. It adds so much to it. If it wasn't quite the right color, you can use your Inktense blocks or a wash of acrylic paint to darken the color. But I was happy with it the way it was. It's almost as if that napkin focal was made for this. I'm just drawing a line around, giving it a bit of a border. And there is the masterboard, and I'm going to show you all the projects that we created. So here we use the color scheme of magenta, purple, and yellow. We had lots of layers, and we made a 7x10 art journal page using a magazine, a 6x6 card using a napkin, a composition book using a stamp, and I have a 4x4 magnet and 2 ATCs to finish yet. Thanks so much for watching. Until next time, go get creative.